Welcome. Today our talk is going to be about how every thought that we have is a prayer.
The Bible says, pray without ceasing. In everything give thanks. In Science of Mind, we have this wonderful practice known as spiritual mind treatment. And we use it quite often when we pray. We call it affirmative prayer, but basically it's a little bit different than prayer in the fact that we're actually changing our own consciousness, changing ourselves, rather than changing God. We're not asking God for things, we're changing our own perception of how things come about and our own ability to accept the good that is already here for us. It becomes a kind of an idea of living the principles, not just using the principles when we need something. We're actually using the principles all the time, living the science of mind. It's more than just an occasional prayer. As a practice, it's an ongoing consciousness. It's something that we use all the time. Now, spiritual mind treatment has 5 steps. They're called recognition, unification, realization, thanksgiving, and release. And if you've been around Science of Mind for a while, you're familiar with these steps and how Science of Mind treatment works. But I was talking to someone recently and thinking about how we can actually use treatment as a practice, using the steps and the principles behind treatment in everyday life, not just when we're praying, but applying it to all of life. And so let me go through those steps. The first one is called recognition, and it is simply a statement that God is all that is. Now, we can look at life all around us and realize that God is in and as everything that we see, including us. Then we can recognize that truth, that God is all that is. Almost every spiritual tradition will agree with that basic principle, that God is all that is. The next step is unification. And once we say, I am one with all that is, we can use a simple mathematical equation and say, if God is all that is, and I am, well then I must be one with all that is, and so therefore God is all that I am. Every part of me, every cell, every atom of my being is God in expression. And so if God is all that is, that includes everything, then it must include me as well. And if it includes me, it must include you as well, and Deborah. And all of us, we're all part of the one cosmic soup. We're a part of the allness of the universe. Then we come to this stage called realization. And to recognize the idea that I live my life in accordance with these previous principles, or these previous statements that God is all that is, and I am one with all that is. And so therefore everything that I bump into, everything that I see and recognize, I see it and recognize it as God in expression. And so therefore any condition in my life which appears to be something that I don't really wish to experience, I need to look at it from that frame of mind, from that perspective, that it is God in expression. When I get to the point where I can really understand that, it suddenly dawns on me, oh wow, I think I got it. I think I figured it out. And that moment of realization is a point of thanksgiving actually, because it's a current experience in which you recognize, understand, and realize, literally, that this thing is true and absolute, and I have recognized it, and so therefore I'm very thankful for that idea because it makes sense. Suddenly everything makes sense. Then we reach that point of realization, release, when we let universal law work in, through, and as us. When we recognize this truth, we recognize we are one with all that is, and it's working beautifully and magnificently in my life, and all the things that are happening are actually God expressing in and as and through me. Then all of a sudden I release that energy to the universe saying, I want more of this. I want to feel this all the time. So I release that energy into the universe, claiming it as an absolute truth in my life, and so it is. We end it that way by saying, and so this is the truth, and I claim it to be so. And if this is true for me now, it must be true for me always. The challenge is remembering that. And so when we go through life, when we start dealing with the conditions in life around us and we start feeling like it's me against the world, all of a sudden we start feeling separate from the things in the world, and really we realize that, well, maybe everything in the world is one with God, but I'm not. Ooh, then we go back to the second stage of the unification where we say, oh, I am one with everything else. It's not them against me. It's not the world against me. It's not some condition against me. It's me and God, and we are connected with everything else. And so how can it be against me if God is for us? What could possibly be against us? So we can apply this basic idea of living the science of mind, not just in moments of prayer, but in everyday life. All those 5 steps. And as soon as something starts to not really work for you, and as soon as you start feeling like Eeyore, or you're feeling down to the dumps, or you're feeling like the world is stacked up against you, you just go back to the number 1 statement and say, God is all that is. And if God is all that is, that includes me. And we start all over again. And we go through the steps. Before long, you're going to get to that point where you're going to realize it's absolutely true, and you claim it to be true, and you release it to universal law, and then you say, I am not going to forget this thing. And that way we're constantly communing with God without ceasing.
Yes, and that was absolutely beautiful and right on point. And so now I'm going to talk a little bit about how we make that work in our lives, because it is beautiful and it is perfect. And that skill of spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer has been used for over 100 years now. Now, truthfully, it's been used for a lot longer than that, but it has been written out in this way since Ernest Holmes' time and since science of mind came to be a thing in the mind of human beings, not just the mind of God. So we can look at that idea that David just shared with us and that has been shared in science of mind throughout the years, and we can say, yes, absolutely perfect, I absolutely agree. And then there are those moments where we slip. And so,
Yeah, but.
yeah, but. The yeah, but moments. The times that we want to imagine that this situation that we're experiencing is separate from all that. And yet if we go back to that idea of every thought is a prayer, we realize that that thought is not conducive for our well-being. So we have to have tools in our toolbox. We have to create a habit of the way that we think. And for anyone that's new to this but is really liking what this is saying, it does take a little time, at least for me it did, and for most people that I know, it takes time to develop that habit. It's just like any other habit that we try to create in our lives. And at whatever point we are in life, we have spent since our birth acquiring belief systems, acquiring ways in which we think. And some of them have created wonderful things for us: great health, great wealth, fabulous relationships, a job that we love, a home that we love, whatever it is, the ability to just sit in nature and relax, whatever it is that you love about your life, you created that. You took all that God is and you chose that. The things that we are not especially fond of that are occurring in our life, those are the areas where we have to practice the remembrance of every thought is a prayer, and looking at how we can habitually change our own thinking to change our life, so that we can sit there and say, everything in my life is working out for good right now. Now, I'm not going to pretend that all the ways that work for me will work for you, but I am going to share a few of the ways that work for me. So for one idea is whenever, because, if I'm assuming we're all similar in that sometimes our thoughts fall off the good wagon and into the brambles, and we have to get them back on track. And so for me, when it's something to do with health, if maybe I notice that I've started to be concerned or have a fear or a worry over anything about my health, I use Ernest Holmes' words, which I have written and I keep right by my desk, so that at any moment that I notice my mind going off the track the path of thinking rightness about my body, about my wholeness, I can just go to those words. And those words, these words are, in the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. I recognize my body as a good friend. Each cell in my body has divine intelligence. I listen to what it tells me and know that its advice is valid. I am always safe and divinely protected and guided. I choose to be healthy and free. All is well in my world. Now, when I first looked for those perfect words for me regarding health, I was going through a time where the doctor had given me a diagnosis that was less than what I would have liked. And so I searched for the thoughts that I wanted to fill my mind with, because I know that whatever we think about, we bring about. Those are our favorite words, aren't they? We're always saying those. So if what I think about, I bring about, I know that I have to deal with the form of the diagnosis. I have to make decisions around that. And that's all well and good. And I need to keep a clear mind for that. At the same time, I need to know that my body, as part of the whole of me, is well. I need to know that every cell knows exactly what to do and how to do it. And that I am guided toward right choices in my decision making. And so those words really work for me. And what I find as I take on truth affirmations like that and practice them over and over is exactly what David said when you're thinking about treatment. Is there comes a point when you're reading them when you say to yourself, that is me. I am whole, complete, and perfect. I am healthy and free. And we always are on the spiritual level. We always are on the spiritual level. And the truth is that that's what we are. We are having a human experience. And so as we look at ideas and dis-ease that comes forward in our lives, and we're able to transform our thoughts, we are able to transform the parts of our body that need to feel that freedom, that need to experience balance and harmony, that need to and want to and are calling out to us to reveal healing within that part of ourselves. Now, another one that I really love is if you notice your mind getting off the track of wealth consciousness, knowing that as God is all that is, as David said, all the abundance of the universe is fully present for you. What portion are you taking and sharing, giving and receiving? Because there's always a balance to life. So that affirmation for me is good and more good is mine. There is no limit to the good that is mine. Everywhere I go, I see this good. I feel it. I experience it. It presses itself against me, flows through me, expresses itself as me, and multiplies itself around me. And so as you begin to feel those words and realize their truth, you start to see it. And it may be just in small ways at first, but it always comes full circle to the thought that created it in the first place. And so in closing, another few words that I keep close and nearby for me are words that I think of as a minister for our center. And three thoughts. One is the global vision that Centers for Spiritual Living has, which is a world that works well for everyone. A world that works for everyone. I think that is an important thought to keep on our minds. It's not just a me, me, me world. It's a we world. And so much more. The second one is creating a collective consciousness. Again, it's not just about me. It's not just about us or our family or our small groups. It's about the entire world. And so we want to look toward how we can be an instrument for holding that thought pattern for all people, holding a loving consciousness for all people, not just those that agree with us, because that will create a collective consciousness that will be a race consciousness that creates a world that works for everyone. And then finally, when it gets smaller and closer to home, for me, the words serving the one I'm with. What do I need to do or be right now so that I am serving the one that I am with? And we are always with ourselves. So we are always wanting to serve our highest purpose. And that serves ourselves and it serves those around us. So as you go forward with your week this week, I think it is our intention, I'm speaking for both now, but I think it is our intention that you have an opportunity to contemplate, what is my prayer? What is my prayer for today? What is my prayer for this week? For my life, for my family, for my world? What is my prayer? And how am I thinking that and following through by walking my talk, my inner talk, taking the action to manifest that in life? Many blessings to you and your family.